Cubecast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Cubecast with myself, Christy, and Tom.
Hi.
And today we have Robin Link, Robin the coach. Thanks for coming on the Cubecast today.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited actually. When I first found Robin, I think you did another podcast, Swapping Shoes.
I've been on Swapping Shoes and then also in the Parkour Coach Companion, which has been the first with Sam Kopak. But
Right.
Swapping Shoes is where people kind of noticed me for the first time, I feel.
Yeah, that's a popular one. I like listening to those.
Yeah, and then I checked you out on Instagram, and I just agree with everything you got going on there. Recovery, how to approach your vaults, or to link up your different lines with so and so. You know, maybe you can do something different going left instead of right, and it flows a little bit differently. And everything's so encouraging by the end post, you know. So thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
What got you into posting advice like that?
COVID.
COVID,
I think, well, I don't know. I stumbled across that carousel format, and I actually heard of it through Sean Wood's All Good podcast, which apparently, seized. But it was on there, and I think he talked about the potential it had. I just looked at posts because with social media marketing or marketing in general, branding, they're very common. And I thought that's a very cool format to actually, tell a story or teach something. Somebody should do it for parkour. And then I went, well, maybe I should do it, could try. And then I kind of went for it, and people really liked it. And then I did the first 3 on my Instagram, which is private, kind of, but people really liked it. And then I thought might as well go big, and then I did 90 posts in a row.
Wow.
Which was a challenge.
It's hard to do.
Shout out to everybody who remembers me posting daily, which was loads of work. And then, still enjoy it, and I feel there's still things that could be said. And so whenever I come up with an idea, something that I want to share, or I think people could draw value from, I just kind of try to put it out there because it's always been for the community. It's got me to interesting places, podcasts and stuff. But yeah, it's mostly just a fun project I do as much as I can if I have free time, which is a rare occasion these days.
Yeah.
But I still manage okay, I like to think.
Well, I definitely think it's a very good resource. Like, I know parkour coaching now is more available, but for anyone that doesn't have access to a more experienced practitioner, being able to see these definitely be a huge boost, right? Especially just remembering that sometimes, it's okay to go back or whatever. And lots of different advice on there. That's all really good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Little freeze there.
Okay, yeah.
I guess we should maybe bring it back here a little bit. Wind back before getting into all the coaching stuff. How did you get into parkour? What was your first exposure to it?
I don't really remember. I think I must have seen it on TV or something. I don't really remember like my first exposure. I just remembered I saw it and I fell in love with it, and I was like, it felt like all my life I've been waiting for this sport to come into my life. And I don't know, like I wasn't a sporty kid at all.
Yeah.
But I was always like the one climbing the tree, stuff like that, and exploring, and then all of a sudden there was a sport and it was a thing, and I was like, oh my god, I need to learn how to do it. And then kind of just started jumping around, no plan whatsoever. That turned out all right eventually. But yeah, must have been ages ago, 13, 14 years ago, something like that.
Oh, nice.
Depends on when you count when I started training or when it got serious. But I feel I've been aware of the sport existing for quite a long time. And then just kind of, I don't know, got into it and never really got out, apparently.
Yeah, just it's funny how it becomes such a big part of your life, or at least the people who do like it. It's just a draw. It's kind of always there, even if you dip out for a little bit.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I disappeared for a year or two in between, but never really left. Couldn't.
So 13, 14 years ago, that's fairly old school by parkour terms. Were you, I guess, what was the inspirations out around then? I guess Jump London and Jump Britain were a little before that, but still early enough where that would have been some of the only parkour content around.
Oh, I remember early David Bell videos. There was like 3 of them, Speed Airman, and don't remember the other 2 actually. And then Blaine was out there, so there was lots of content coming from the UK. I still remember that. And then was like the Epic free run or some stuff like clickbaity video, which I used to watch quite a lot. Since Germany is really good in terms of community, I guess just with the proximity to England, we've had quite a big scene right from the start. Because I grew up around Frankfurt, I actually got to meet with Jason Paul and the original Ashigaro crew.
Cool.
And they had workshops like weekly and stuff like that going on. So that was really cool for connecting with the people. And I feel that's what really helped me in there, is eventually forming friendships and just getting introduced to a new lifestyle, which I really fell in love with.
What keeps you training, Robin?
Pure love. No, I'd say, it's actually the love for movement that never left. And whenever I kind of slack with training, which happens every now and then, life happens every now and then, and there have been bigger breaks as well. Like there are even years, like only like 1 year periods of time, but there are those periods in my life where I remember I wouldn't really train, and I still felt like part of the community. I would still follow what was going on, but I wasn't, really out training. And then whenever I go back or would do a jump or two, I'm like, oh, why did I even leave? Like, this is what I love. This is the only thing I really want to do. And I don't know, adult life never caught up hard enough to make me leave it. I just can't see myself doing anything else. It's just, I love progressing and I love expressing myself through movement and just like going exploring. I love the people that are within the scene and just everything that Parkour has given me. I just can't really turn away from it.
That's a lovely answer.
Integrates, just it becomes a priority. Okay.
It really does.
Once it hits that level of just being part of your life rather than a hobby. It's like not just that thing where you're like, oh, I gotta go do this, I gotta go play this game or whatever. It's just that's how life is.
Yeah. It's the parkour vision. It's always on.
So besides parkour, in your, earlier childhood, were you into any other sports at all? I know you said you weren't really like a sporty kid, but there's like kids are always forced into things.
No, unfortunately not actually. I wasn't fit at all. I was a fat kid. I used to sit at home and play video games, and I really didn't like myself back then either.
Really?
So I don't know. Once I saw parkour, it was like, yeah.
Huh.
But once I saw parkour, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I remember people making fun of me as well, quite harsh, like brutally bullying me. And I went, you know what? I don't know. For some reason, I was like, no, I'm going to stick with this. Like, I'm going to learn how to do this. And I did. Took some time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, got me out of being a pretty boring and meaningless kid and
Cool.
into what I perceive or hope to be, meaningful and interesting person that has experienced quite a few things. So I like to think, anyway.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Wicked. Yeah, you never know when something will come along, hey, especially when you're a kid. Just change your life.
Jeez, anytime parkour enters anyone's life, it seems to change. Hey, Robin, during your training, have you had like a major injury that's keeping you away from like, did you have a shoulder, roll your ankle or nothing? You get away with this with no injury?
No. I've had knee problems for a while. My shoulders aren't in the best condition, but that was actually came from just doing too many push-ups or some shit. So it's not really related to parkour.
Wow.
Directly. As for my knees, they were pretty bad when I was 20 or 21. I remember going to the doctor and he told me like, maybe you should just stop doing the sport. And I went, you claim to be an expert for health and your advice is to stop moving. So I'll choose not to believe you.
Yeah.
Because I've got 60 years more to live and I don't really see, I was like, that doesn't seem reasonable.
Yeah.
It kept me from training for like a year. But now everything seems fine. Like I'm
Good.
better than before. I don't know.
Good.
So no major injuries actually. So a bit of a disappointment. Rolled ankle here or there, but nothing that kept me from training for longer than I'd say 2 weeks.
I love that.
Damn. I guess you're not like you probably lean a little more to the side of safety in how you approach your training. Like me, I've knock on wood here, have not had a serious injury either.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely do not take
yeah, I'd say so.
risk. I mean, I guess everything is kind of a risk, right? But very calculated risks.
I would agree with you, Tom.
I mean, I feel accidents can always happen, but
Totally.
I feel with the right amount of preparation and experience, you have the potential to get away just fine. And apparently I fall pretty spectacular, but very safe as well. So people go like, well, could you do that again? I was like, I have no idea what the hell I've done. But
yeah, right.
Usually get away pretty safe and just kind of roll off. And I don't know, it seems to work for me. I feel I spent a lot of time falling at first and just kind of doing falling exercise and practicing all the stuff small scale. So I feel I just have a very good area awareness when when it comes to it, and seems to work.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, I know everyone wants to kind of avoid falling, right? To avoid, making a mistake, but it's a good thing to go through, I think, when you start, right? Like you kind of have to kind of got to make those mistakes so you can get comfortable with falling.
Yeah, I'm kind of an advocate for actually putting a little bit of practice into falling, because if you're comfortable with failing a jump, like really comfortable, and you can trust your body and yourself to handle things that go wrong, it just levels up your practice because it allows you to train at the level you're actually at, and it gives you mental peace to just know, if things go south, they will still be all right. So I feel it's a huge advantage to have that, especially like paired with not being injured and just having more time to train. I feel it's super useful.
Agreed.
I advise everybody to just go through a little bit of falling exercise, really.
What do you think is a good way to do that, though? Like, I know I've always kind of struggled to think of good ways of really getting into that headspace of, because it's like almost a fight or flight moment, right? When you bail and your actual instincts kick in. So it's like, how do you replicate that to like really train how your brain reacts to falling?
I personally don't. I feel it's just about, and I keep repeating myself about this, but I feel if you're just putting in the reps and like doing things 50, 100, 1,000 times, they kind of become automatic.
Right.
And then obviously they're never going to be perfect when you need them. But if you have a really good roll or really good dive roll, or you know to put your hand in front of your face when falling, some people apparently don't do. I feel it kind of becomes an instinct, and that can kick in when you need it. I feel as well as having good coordination. So if you're comfortable with rolling around and you keep, where the ground is, and like have wheel axes, and think about the different scenarios, like properly think about them. You don't need to think about what am I going to do in an emergency in the case of me slipping here, because if you plan for as much as you can, you're like, well, I at least react in the way that I made out to. So yeah, I'd say make plans and then obviously practice them. And you can just simulate falling. Like I remember I'd just go out and be like, oh, if I fell like this way, if I fell to my side, how would I go for it? And then just kind of act it out and practice that. So you go like, oh, would I cartwheel? Would I roll? Would I land on my back? Would I handstand?
Right.
And then kind of just practice it.
Awesome.
So think through the scenarios and kind of visualize the different possibilities. Who did we talk to here, Christy? Was it Rob and Rob when they said
Rob and Rob
throw a ball at someone
while they're doing a movement?
While doing a movement to force the reaction?
Yeah.
I think that's probably smart. What do you, I guess, when you're teaching kids, do you do things like that? You're just like little, maybe push? No.
Not too much, actually, because I feel, especially when you're starting out, it's important to just gather experience and kind of build a repertoire. So I'm like, oh, how does it feel if you do it this way? How does jump change if you do it to a ledge? How does it change if the run up is slanted? How does it change if you under or overshoot it? What feels good? What doesn't? What can you do to avoid that? I like it to let people roll on hard ground. I just go like, just try it out, and then they're like, that hurt. I'm like, well, change it.
Yeah.
Totally. I think we've all done it.
Because I feel the best. I feel the best protection at the end of the day is just experience, and like having gone through as many scenarios in a safe way. So I obviously warn people. I'm like, it's a wall, it's concrete, it's hard. Like try not to rip your shins off. But at the end of the day, it's a good lesson to do that once.
Yeah,
it teaches you to pay attention for the rest of your life. I've done it several times.
Yeah, it is a good lesson. Sometimes your toes just show up enough just to catch, you know what I mean? It's like it learns from being shinned. It's so true. It's like PTSD. It's like, not again.
Yeah, I guess probably most people, you do parkour long enough, you'll have a nice mark on your shin somewhere, hey?
Absolutely, yeah. I would agree with that.
Just tell by looking at shins. Oh yeah, you do parkour or Muay Thai. I don't know.
Purposely kicking things.
So what's kind of related to following? How do you deal with like the mental blocks and progressing past that? Something that just with yourself or students. What's the trick or your advice for getting over those blocks?
I go through the same things. So if I can't see a jump, so how people have a parkour vision, I'm like, if I can't even imagine it, or if I can't imagine myself doing it, I'm like, obviously it's out of my reach. Like, just no way. Like, there's drops like that, friends take, and I'm like, I can't even, like, no. It looks like injury to me. It doesn't look like a drop. So if it's that, I either kind of train around it. I'm like, I'm not ready for it. Or if it would be something I really want to do, I'm like, okay, what's my weak point here? What do I need to get better at? And then focus on that, which is, if it's that, usually physical ability. So I go and just lift because I really like that. But most of the time, it's obviously you're like, oh, I think I'm capable to do it, but your brain kind of goes like, no, fight or flight thing. You're like, don't really want to do it, or you can't really commit. And then there's several things I do. So I go through things that could go wrong, and I'm like, realistically speaking, what's like, I first try to put into words what I actually fear. I'm like, what is it that I'm afraid of? Is it smashing into the ground? Is it shitting into the wall? And then I kind of try to explain. I do it with other people too. I'm like, no, that's usually the fear. If it's irrational, right? You go and you're like, no, that won't happen. Or what would you do? And then I go through the scenarios, as I said. I'm like, oh, if I slip on the run up, then I'll just land here. Or, will I really land on my shins? Realistically speaking, no, I haven't done that in 10 years. Like, my feet kind of go out to the ledge, and I'd rather just kick it or, like fall over it. Like, my shins aren't touching that wall. And go through it. And then sometimes I know, and that's the most annoying thing to do, but sometimes I know I'm like, I might just have to try it 30 times and then just go through with it. I'm like, like with some things, you're like, I think I could do it. And then you one-bang it. And some things you need to work towards. And then, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 30 trials. And right now I'm just guessing. I'm like, oh, it looks like something I could do with 10 attempts. And then just kind of go for it. If it takes longer, it takes longer. I remember when we were at WPF camp this year, there was this one jump and I had to do it like 50 times. I didn't do anything else that day.
Yeah.
I got it eventually. I was like, oh, I know it. It sucked, like, but I got it.
Right.
It's something you need to push through. You're like, if you're capable of doing it,
cool.
Try to get closer and closer until you get it.
Does it ever bug you when you finally get those things and you're like, oh man, if my brain just like worked with me a little better, I could have done this like 2 hours ago?
There's a video of me going like this and like, oh, I could have done that like 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, coaching yourself through a line. Like, how big is that cat leap? Well, I'm 5'11", 10, 5'11". That's my body length. All I need to do is jump a little bit more and extend my arms out. So that's even more of a gap. Like, yeah, I can do this, no doubt. But it's just because it's out in the raw.
Yeah, exactly.
Your brain just like screws you over. It's like, no, not gonna do this. You run up to it, stop.
Yeah, that is the absolute worst thing. I think for me in parkour.
It.
Trying to commit and then your brain's like, no.
Another thing that really helps me.
Tell me.
Another thing that really like that I just remembered is sometimes I just accept failure. I'm like, you know what? If I need to bang my knee here in order to get this eventually, I'll just like, that's fine. Like, pain will fade. Like sometimes I'm just like, it might happen. That's okay. I'll take it. And then usually doesn't, because once you're comfortable with, failing, like at least for me, I'm like, okay, cool, let's go, and I can fully commit.
Yeah, that's actually something I've started doing more recently in gym settings where there's like mats and stuff, not on concrete really, but doing something enough until I start to fail, like purposely doing that. So then I can train myself to realize it's not actually that bad. It's not as bad as my brain is making it out to be.
Yeah.
And I think the movement's faster.
Sometimes even
better.
like the worst case. Yeah, like for me, sometimes I remember how like this like heart bay, and I remember when I was doing my first ever castaway, I landed on my head. Like I kind of head dove into the mat.
Shit.
I was like, that was shit. That was really shit. I was like, didn't commit, and kind of like, I was like, that's the worst thing that can happen. But I was fine, so I just went back up, and I was like, I need to do it right now because this was the worst thing that could happen. I'm fine, so I'll just do it again, but better. Because once I realized, like, okay, I can, head dive into those mats, and I'll still be fine. It wasn't comfortable, but I'm like, I'm fine. Like, it really helped me. Or sometimes I'll just check it. I'm like, what happens if I land it on my back? And I go like, that hurts, but not too bad. So if that's the worst case thing, it's just go for it.
Yeah, it's for sure the anticipation of the possible failure is actually worse generally than the actual bad outcome, right? Your brain makes things scarier than they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
You have to fail enough to kind of realize that.
Yeah. I think that's the lesson of parkour.
Fail till you succeed?
No, your brain thinks it's scarier than it actually is.
Yeah.
Like really. Until you drill it 50 times.
I feel like it's more of a life. I feel like it's actually more of a life lesson. Right? So I always try to teach my kids, and like, it's kind of like life. And I don't think they get it, but I like to think eventually they will get it. I'm like, no harm in trying. Like, even if you hurt yourself a little bit, you'll be fine later on. If at least tried. And if you do it often enough, maybe you'll get it. Maybe you won't. You'll be happier with trying, most likely. It's nothing more frustrating than being crippled with fear, not doing things. And they go like, yeah, cool. But eventually they get it.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, you can hear a lesson, but it'll always take some time before people have that. Oh, that's what you meant.
Absolutely. Has to be like on a Marvel movie, and it's like, Coach said that, Robin, you're super busy. Like, thanks for coming on the show. I know, like, you do your I guess Monday to Friday deal, but you also do like seminars and other stuff on the weekend relating to parkour, or you do like workshops. Do you travel for this as well too? Like,
yeah.
Wow. Well, so what was your most recent workshop?
So Monday to Friday, 2 hours ago, home and jobless people, which was right around the corner. But then don't remember. Like, there's several things I do on a weekly basis.
Cool. Yeah.
In Freiburg, where I live, Germany. And then last seminar, I think, was in Munich, which was a coaching seminar where I was kind of attending, kind of coaching myself, which is weird because I'm in this weird in-between spot where I didn't have the certification, but I knew everything. I knew the people that run it, so I had to get it in order to teach them in the future.
What? Wait, what?
you gotta play this this political role, right? Like
some parkour.
I mean, it was a fun
seminar.
Don't get me wrong.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was fun, and I learned a thing or two. Like, I still, there's no harm in attending such a thing. Yeah, it was fun. But yeah, I do stuff like that. I do work on certifications. I do plan workshops. I do plan kind of campaigns or like programs where they're like, oh, you know, let's say a school or my uni, they want to incorporate parkour into their curriculum, and I go, well, this is how you probably teach it, and then I don't know, plan out the lessons for them, I guess, and then I usually just run them myself. And like, that's easier. But yeah, I've got that. I've got my own training. I've got events I want to attend. I've got
Cool.
so yeah.
What's the next event that you're attending?
Don't know, because with COVID, things are starting to close down again, or things are getting hard to organize at the moment. So there was a couple of jams I wanted to go to, and then one I couldn't make, or two I couldn't make, and then one got rescheduled or something. So for now, no plans. I'd love to go for a lot of movement, but obviously that's not happening this year. And since we're approaching winter pretty fast, there's not so much going on anymore this year.
Yeah.
We have to see what next year brings.
Oh, I hear you on that.
Yeah, no, this COVID's really putting a rut in in things, hey?
A lot of things.
So with coaching, sorry, getting back to it a little bit. What makes a good coach? What I don't even know what characteristics. what kind of background training makes someone a good parkour coach? How important
Interesting question. I think there's several things.
Sorry, I was just going to say, how important is being an actual parkour practitioner to coaching?
A lot. I think it's crucial. So there's several qualities in a coach, and I think a good coach should cover all of them. So obviously, it helps if you've been, say, one of the best athletes in the game. It definitely helps. I don't think that you need to be a top class athlete in order to make the next top class athlete. So, because that's something people confuse. People at the Olympics, their trainers weren't at the Olympics when they were in their prime. They usually don't, but they understand how training works. They understand training well enough in order to make the next generation. So what I think is important is that you were able to do the moves you're teaching, or that you at least understand all of them in a way that you know how they feel, you know where to use them and all that, you know how training feels, that you actually plan, like you should have done the programs that you put on people, and you should have done the progressions or understand the progressions that you teach other people. So I'd say it's very, very important that you've got your share of experience. And I don't like it when PE teachers in Germany and they like, oh, we do parkour at PE. I'm like, you don't know anything about the sport. Please leave it to people who have actually done it. Or if you want to teach it, maybe get into the sport for a bit. Right. And then do that, because I don't like it if people, they don't really know what's going on. I'm like, just because you read a book, you're not a coach. Like, it's not how it works. Just because you've got a certification, that doesn't make you a coach either. Like, you need practice, both yourself and practice coaching. And then when it comes to that, there's qualities that make a good coach. And I think you need to be comfortable speaking in front of people. You need to understand the struggles. You need to attend to their needs and be able to kind of encourage people and kind of deal with fear, and then need to be yourself. I feel that's very important. Like, some people are, like softer type guys, and they can be great coaches as well. I'm kind of more like an old school drill person, I'd say. I can be quite angry.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, you need to, like, your teaching style should fit your personality, because if you're acting, people will eventually notice and they won't believe anything you're doing. So I feel it's about being real.
No, I agree.
Now, have you found that people you coach don't believe, like it's like they don't listen to you until you've actually shown them your own ability?
Oh,
I hate that.
I feel it helps.
Yeah.
I feel it. No, I don't experience that, but I feel it helps. If you show people, like, I'm able to do this, or demonstrate, like, this is how it works, obviously they're going to be like, oh, he's an expert, he knows what he's talking about. I feel with enough experience, you kind of radiate that energy already. Like, you kind of have it within you. And I feel if you're confident enough, and, like, I noticed that with like, because right now I teach students that will become teachers. I kind of often talk to them, and I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel I kind of get it, just because I'm like, this is what you need to pay attention to. Think about this, think about that. These are the, I don't know, things to be aware of. This is what's boring, this is what's not. And I feel, because I've done it for so many hours, they can feel it. I'm like, if you do that, you can do it, but it will become boring for, the people you teach and for yourself. Like, rolling your wrists for a warm up, don't do that. It's boring. Boring for everyone involved. Don't, like, there's so much better things you could do in that time. Don't do it. Sucks. But yeah, to answer your question, I feel, yeah, it can help. But I don't feel, if you're really good, you don't need to do it. Like, there should be no need to show you're capable of doing it. And even if you're not capable of doing it anymore, or not that way, it shouldn't be necessary. I feel that would be a coaching culture that I really like, where your quality as a coach decides more than your skill level if you get hired, or if you get a job, or how much you teach. Because you can be a great athlete and not be able to explain anything. You could be very talented. You could, what worked for you might not work for the next person.
Exactly.
It could, but
yeah,
if you're that good, it probably won't. Probably won't for the next, like, no. Like, we're not Dom. Like, doing the things he does doesn't work for us. Like, there needs to be a different approach to it.
Right. I agree with that 100%. I've kind of always said that in our coaching practice when Tom and I would coach at this specific place, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'll teach you my way of doing something, but if you don't get it, like Tom, when you go over to Tom's class, you just might be taught differently that clicks for you at that time." Like parkour rules, it's really hard for children to get the whole concept of it. So, like, Tom may teach it, I may teach it, but the next person behind us may teach it, and it might just click with that kid. You know what I mean?
I actually feel the best teaching is the one where you seem to be useless. I had many discussions with other coaches about that. And right now, because obviously teaching things in a certain order and progressions is great.
Yeah.
But I feel that's not really parkour anymore. Like, it works if you want to attain a certain level, or if you want to, become the best at speed runs or something. Like, obviously there's progressions you should do, and go ahead and do them. Ask me about them. I'm all for that. But when it comes to teaching parkour and the culture and kind of keeping it alive, I'm like, most of the times I just, like, give them a couple of boxes of blocks and, like, do whatever, like, gather your own experience. That's what it's all about. And then if you don't know something, just come and ask. I'll hang out. I'll do my stuff. You can probably pick up a thing or two from watching me train or the others. And that teaches people to actually ask and try things on their own, because obviously if I tell them this is how I've done it, it might not work for them. Might just not. And I can go through the process with them, but I feel you learn the most if you get to know yourself and your own process. And if class is really good, I'm just kind of sitting at the side, and they talk to each other and they teach each other.
Right. Because there always does have to be that balance between the directed instruction of how things work, the kind of mechanics behind things, but a big part of especially parkour, I would say, is the self-directed stuff. It's this, play and explore by yourself. That's how they'll actually figure this stuff out and integrate it, right? Like they can't
Yeah,
be
100%.
having someone tell them what to do for every single movement.
All right. Well, saying that, do the youth that or anyone that you're teaching, do they know anything about the parkour culture of it coming up, like, old school and where it came from, like the actual history of it, or do they care?
I used to be. I don't know if they care. I used to be. I used to be very anal about it. I was like, oh, kids need to know this, and this is super important, and where it came from. But I remember there were big discussions about it, at least in the people I was surrounded with. And at the end of the day, same with the parkour versus freerunning debate, which is which. If you take a step back and look at it from like a mugger's perspective, or somebody else, I'm like, is this really important to what I want out of this sport? Is it important that people get it, like outsiders get it? I'm like, I don't know. I don't care. Like I don't care about people outside of the sport. I care about the people inside the sport. They get it. That's what's important to me. And then if I teach people, I might tell them a thing or two. But at the end of the day, I'm like, is it important? Is it important that I know the name of that person, that the thing? Is it? No. I think it's important that they enjoy themselves. I think it's important that they have an understanding of how the movement works, of how learning moves works, and like how to train kind of thing. And so right now I might tell them a thing or two, like this is where it came from. If they're interested, they'll look it up. If they don't, I don't think that's a problem. Like the sport's very dynamic and still growing, and each and every one of us makes parkour its own thing. There's no rules to it either. So I go like, you know what? There's no rules. There's no right or wrong. I'm not your dad. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I can tell you how to approach things and how to do things. But what you make out of it is entirely up to you. And it's kind of how life is. Like, no rules to it.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way to look at it. People,
really
yeah. You don't have to like. I mean, I guess at first it's people back in the day. All we had was a couple of people to look at for examples. So it was like, oh, you don't know who that is or anything. But now it's like you can't be expecting everyone interested in parkour to.
I mean, yeah. If to be fair, if it's like a name or a clip, people haven't seen it, and it's been very important. I'm like, maybe look it up. Manpower gainer. I don't know, but
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you notice that happened or didn't. Like, it doesn't really affect your practice. It's just how up to date you are and how connected you are.
Wow, Robin, I really enjoy your perspective of parkour. It's really dynamic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really dynamic, and it's refreshing because I like to see parkour have no boundaries, right? To like sometimes when say for hockey, for example, people have their team, and they're die hard for this team kind of thing, and it's like, no, this and that person should have got a penalty, and it's what, like, there's the rules that are set, the boundaries. But just like parkour, like if there is a boundary, we get over it, and that's what makes it so fun. And yeah, like,
Exactly.
yeah, no, that's really cool. Geez, yeah, I can't wait to listen to this podcast later and refresh my.
So with training, your own training, are you want to just stick to parkour for progressing your parkour, or do you cross train with other stuff? Do you like calisthenics or weight training? Both?
Yeah, I did do other sports alongside parkour. I used to do a year or two capoeira, and I used to do gymnastics actually. Let the hate come in. It was actually great. It was actually great for my like flips and stuff. It was fun too. For me, it was. I knew I wouldn't keep it up forever, but it was a great experience actually. And no, if people can jump over their own egos, do a gymnastics class or two. They're actually fun, and you can learn loads. They've been doing this for quite a long time.
Yeah.
As my training today, I mostly do parkour, but with winter approaching, I do loads of powerlifting just in order to be very strong. I remember a year ago, people would tell me that wouldn't pay off, and now I'm the strongest jumper around pretty much any place I go. So take that. Whoever said that, apparently it pays off.
Huh.
Nice.
Good
That's one
for
thing
you.
I haven't tried myself. So
Me
you
neither.
recommend powerlifting?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a sports scientific standpoint, if you look at it, there is science behind that. And people telling me it doesn't work, I'm like, that probably means you don't understand how jumping biomechanics work.
Right.
How strength works. It doesn't need to. I mean, it doesn't need to translate into bigger jumps necessarily. But if you plan it right and you do the right things, it will. Works for me. So I enjoy that because I enjoy progress. That's why I do it. And it's not a pain in the ass for me. I know people that are like, I hate it. I'm like, don't do it. There's no
right.
Like sports about enjoying yourself, but I enjoy it.
So what I'm hearing is train legs 3 times a week instead of once.
Well, yeah, it pays off. As a coach, I have to say, yeah, if you want to have big jumps, it does the job.
Okay, cool. Mental note. I have a question. What is your favorite move? Like if you were to do a line, you definitely will put this move in.
Do loads of aerials, which I know they're not in fashion, but I do quite a lot of aerials. Like I do hook aerials quite a lot. I do a little like breakdown thing quite often where I kind of just don't walk, but I do like breakdance, turn and then do a walk. So that will probably be in there. I like palm spins just for the sake of our own move. But yeah, then you do a flip at the end of the line because that gives you the likes. You know, you
get the likes. Of course.
And if you're not getting those likes, what's the point, right?
That's how you do it, right?
Let's get some likes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Aerials, those are good. Actually very hard to do. Requires a lot of flexibility to do properly.
Yeah, handstands
Underrated
made a
moves.
comeback. So aerials probably next.
Yeah, that's one thing since.
I mean, I love that.
Since the Tim Sheaf era, not a lot of flags, handstands, and parkour now.
Right. That used to be your basic.
Yeah, to be fair, that was.
Go for it.
That was a little bit cringy. That's what I wanted to say. Like, if you look back at those videos, like I respect them for what they wear. I really respect them for what they wear and what they stood for back in the day because I still remember that. But I get why people don't want to see them anymore. But I do get it.
I mean, yeah, when you think about it logically, like a competition or whatever video, it's like all movement based, and then suddenly there's a human flag in there. Just different style.
Yeah.
I appreciated it though. And still wish I could do it.
I think Callum wrote something about it. Where he was like, "You think The Office is the reason people make fun of parkour? Like, watch the 2008 or earlier video."
Oh, really?
Like, right now, do it and tell me, like, we've kind of done it ourselves. Like, well, that's fine too.
Yeah.
No, I get it. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like when you look back at the origins of skateboarding to what it is now, there's like two different movement like styles completely.
Yeah, it's a progression, and it's all right. Like, they were the pioneers, and to be completely fair, kudos to them, because nobody's done it before, and that was awkward as fuck.
Yeah.
Could be here without them, but still, I won't really watch 2008 videos anymore. That I don't do.
Right. Like the straddle handstand on a rooftop. Classic.
Oh yeah. And that'll always hold a special place in my heart.
Same here. I still want to do it. I don't know which rooftop, but I still want to do it. Maybe just do the straddle handstand.
Same here.
Well, do you have any future goals now that we talk about the straddle handstand on rooftops?
Yeah, I want to keep progressing, and that still works.
Cool.
And see how long I can still do that, but it seems to. I feel I've got another 10 years, so
nice.
Keep moving, and then I have very, very tangible powerlifting goals because they're very easy to quantify. So I go like, I wanted to lift 200 kilos, so that's almost 400 pounds for you guys. Yeah. I did that, and now I want to squat the same weight.
Cool.
See how I go, and then I want to get my corks back. They're not cool. I just, certain moves and certain runs around here where we're like, we have this thing. I like to say it's like manpower, which we're all kind of want to do, and we're looking and we're like, it's definitely possible, but I think nobody's ever done it, so I'd be stoked to be the first.
Shit.
Well, we'll see. You'll see it if I get it. You'll see it one way or another.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll probably see it if I don't get it as well, because that will go viral.
Yeah.
So you have to like re-listen to the podcast where you say like rehearse, do it 50 times. So you can one bang it out. Coach yourself. That's awesome. Well, I hope you do it and you do commit it on a first time. Like that would be something. Like, wow. Yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah, height drops are always a scary one. But I mean, I've never really done it too high of height drops, but again, another one that seems to be worse in your mind.
Right.
That's what
I actually think it's great that they're having a comeback. We'll see how that will. We'll need to see how it plays out for people, like with capstone and everything. But I'm excited to see where we'll be getting in the future with height drops being more of a thing again and people actually training them. Could be cool.
It'll come around again, I'm sure. So when you do you train in like a group or do you do solo? What's that look like?
I don't do many solo sessions anymore. Just because there is a community around, and I'm like, I'd rather let people know and meet up with people than just go by myself. I used to do loads and loads of solo training when I first started because there was no one to train with. I remember it was like period 2 or 3 years where I hardly meet anybody. It just didn't really have the money to go anywhere. I was still a student, so we just like train at the same 3, 4, 5 spots in my neighborhood. And that was awesome. but right now there's enough people to train with, so usually just meet up with people, train with them.
Cool. What's your community look like when you train with people? Is it 20 plus, or is it like 5?
No. I mean, Freiburg is not a big city, and it seems kind of divided here, which is like there's people that have been living here because I moved here, right? And then there's been people that have lived and trained here for like probably 10 years, so they're my age, but they're like their own circle, and I know they have their own group chat and stuff. Like, I get it. It's nice to just hang out with your friends and everything, and like have a session here and there with them. That's all right, but I always think like you're making the sport very exclusive, and you're making it hard for people to access that lifestyle that you live and that you apparently like so much. And
right,
kind of a dick. No, I don't want to say it's a dick move, but I'm like, it's just, it doesn't feel nice.
Kind of, yeah.
If you go out training, you might as well let people know. And I always wonder, I'm like, is that yours? Like, do you own the sport? Because why can't you share it? Like, why is it different if there's somebody else there? And so, to answer your question, I hang out with the new generation, which are a bit younger, so they're 18 to 21 mostly, I'd say. And then it's usually like 3 to 6, 7 people when we're out, which is
cool.
Nice. But no big groups like they used to be.
So do you find the youth are doing these like ridiculous lines and ridiculous moves, and so like training with them makes you want to get to that level, or it inspires you just as much as you inspire them?
Could you repeat that question? Sorry, there was a little bit of lag.
Do you find the youth that you're training with get things or do lines that are ridiculous than what you've seen, in bigger groups?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, get it. I mean, what I noticed is the training style has changed. Like, people that have been in the sport for ages, they usually lean more on the parkour side of things. My perception of it, at least. And I know I do. But like younger generations, they are like more flip-based and trick-based. And that's very cool because obviously they approach lines a lot different. And this is just my opinion, but it's a strong one. And I'm not scared to put it out there. I'm like, if you've been in the game for like 10 years, and all you're doing is still caprice, you've been left behind. You're not old school, you've been left behind. Parkour is so much more these days. It's fucking sick. You should at least give it a go. Like, you're probably not able to keep up with, 14, 15, 16-year-olds that did their first flips when they were 10 or 9.
Yeah.
It's probably not realistic, but it's worth, being open to it and like trying new styles. And I feel it's important to keep up to date with that and know how training that way feels, or you'll lose touch eventually and just become awkward.
No, I agree with that. I agree with your admiration for parkour. I feel the same way. I feel everyone should do it. Like, try it and do it, because like, I don't know, if you even try it, you're gonna love it, and you're gonna start seeing stupid little jumps, stupid little climb ups everywhere. You'll be like on your work break, you'll be at work, you'll be looking out the window and be like, oh, there's a run right there, and I can do this and that, and you start daydreaming about the parking stalls. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. Everyone should do it. And then saying that, like, that builds a community. And then next thing you know, you're tackling your next meeting the same way that you tackled the parking lot outside when you were daydreaming.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing for people to not put limitations on their movement too. Like, just stick to this like parkour style Like, just embrace it. Like, try these different movements. You might not be good at it, or as good as some other people, rather, but the goal is just to be good at moving in general, at movement,
That's it.
right?
Mhm.
So don't put like artificial barriers.
Yeah. Plus, at the end of the day, I always felt it's not about who's better. It's about enjoying yourself and exploring your body and your possibilities and kind of extending them. So no hurt in widening your repertoire and gathering more experience from new styles. You might end up not liking them and just do the same thing, but at least give it a go.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just getting a wider base of, experience and different movements, it might help you in something you do like to do, right? In another movement some way.
Absolutely. I do believe in trying new things and then integrating them into your practice. I mean, I remember when Pasha popped up, kind of, God, I sound old, but I remember when he was like this sensation, and then eventually got invited to his first Art of Motion, I think.
Yeah.
And so everybody would watch Pasha videos and be like, oh, it's very inspirational and learn so many new moves and this is how it feels. Back then, he used to watch breakdance videos for inspiration and he'd copy them. And I'm like, oh, it's so much smarter because that's outside of the sport. It's a completely different approach. And just recently, somebody messaged me who was like, I watch animal movements. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually sick. Having other sources of inspiration outside of parkour will give you so many more options rather than staying inside your little bubble.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, especially, well, now people can kind of start with parkour from a young age, but back before you had people coming in from breakdancing or gymnastics or whatever that influenced their movement so much. Like, people should almost, keep doing parkour, but explore other aspects of life, of movement. It'll for sure benefit you.
It's almost like dance, martial arts, and parkour is this cute little ball that's all mixed in together, like you can pull all little things from everywhere and make your own kind of sport,
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
It all gets so personalized, eh? Everyone's parkour is the same but different.
Yeah.
Deep parkour talk, eh?
Yeah, it totally is. Yeah. Speaking of,
what do you think about competitions in general? Because being someone like you started pre-competition, right? Have you liked how that has impacted the parkour community?
Yeah, I have to say yes, I do. I do like competitions. I don't watch them that much myself, to be honest. But I think there's great potential in competition. And I remember the debate going, are we pro competition or against?
Yeah.
And that went back and forth, kind of like the Parkour freerun debate, kind of like debates used to go. And eventually we got nothing out of that. Spent hours and hours discussing pros and cons, and then eventually things just happened. And when it comes to such things as, well, competitions is the clearest example. There are people, there's stakeholders outside of the sport, and they want something from it. And they're so powerful, and they've got so much money, you can't really defend against it. They will find a way. And I don't want to say they're bad people or anything. I'm just like, that's kind of how economy works, that's kind of how capitalism works. And I don't want to judge that because that's the system that we kind of live in. But what competition brought was a wider audience a bigger understanding of the sport, a bigger understanding of what's possible within the sport. It brought a lot of money. It brought sponsorships. It brought contracts. It brought opportunities to travel. And at the end of the day, I feel that's great, because my personal opinion on a thing, on an athlete, on a competition doesn't matter that much. And I'm not the gatekeeper of parkour.
Yeah.
What I feel is important is that the sport lives and grows. And if you look at any other professional sport or any other sport that is known, there will be a competition. There will be certain things. There will be training camps. There will be preparation for that. There will be a dedicated conditioning towards that thing you're doing. It doesn't matter what your opinion on those things is for conditioning as well. People go like, I don't like it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if we professionalize the sport, it will probably come up. It's just something I kind of don't want to say naturally, but it happens. And I'm like, it's good if you want to push the limits. It's good to go that way. And if there's more opportunity within the sport, if there's more people that can live off that sport, I struggle to see why that's a bad thing. And I get why people are worried about things that people outside of the sport might do with it. And they're like, oh, they're going to change the sport. I'm like, the sport's made out of every single one of us that do the sport and how we communicate the sport and how we represent the sport. And if you don't like it, maybe come up with your own competition then. Because many people, they just argue, and I go, well, then do something else. Right? Nobody's stopping you from doing a great competition that you like and that represents your values. It's not a thing. And I feel like with skill competitions coming up, especially now, I really love that. Like, we have a thing that's unique to parkour, that's kind of true to what we train, and it kind of tests like how versatile your movement repertoire is and how well you can adjust and how capable you are of doing a thing in as little tries as possible. I'm like, that's sick. So I'm actually for competition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say, because I see loads of opportunity.
Yeah.
I see loads of opportunities, and there's worries. I'm like, I don't see the downside of the thing, because if we don't have that, we have no money, we have no exposure, we have nothing, and you get to keep your little thing. All right, you're still special. You've got your little treasure thing you don't want to share with anybody else. Do you really love parkour then? Like, is it really about the sport? Is it about your fragile ego?
Right.
Because that's a different discussion then.
Totally.
And I'll stroke it. I'll go ahead and stroke it and tell you how special you are. But that is not a rational discussion about competition anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Good perspective. I love that. I like competition just because I'm competing. I'm competing against myself. Like, what do you mean I can't get this cat pole? Like, how many times do I have to do this? How many do I have to walk away now? Do I have to go to another? Especially if we're doing what's that called? Skills. I drill it, and I get mad at myself. It's not like I'm mad at everyone watching me. It's like, I'm mad at myself, and I get it, competition, but competition for like a pro athlete, I think it's really, really good too, because now I can start saying free running and parkour, and people know what it is. It's like somehow it gets into people's ears and eyes somehow. And that's great. It's happened more so over the last 2 years over COVID than it has like before that, I feel. It's weird.
Yeah, that's I guess the fig thing is interesting though, because I guess it's not so much the competitions, right? Is it people are more worried about their like ability to kind of control parkour beyond the competition, right? Like having their own.
Yeah. I mean, with
Sorry.
I get the discussion and the worries about the fig. Now, I get why that is such a hot topic, and I don't really have an informed opinion on it, I have to say, because I felt I didn't really keep up with it. I felt what happens with a big player like Fig. I was like, I'd rather invest my energy somewhere else. So I'm not pro Fig for anybody out there. I'm not. But I also don't have an informed opinion.
Right.
So, because for them, they're like, oh, it's going to be a subdivision of gymnastics. And people are worried about that. Like, we don't want to be put into the same category. I get that. Neither. Again, they bring in a lot of money. They bring in a lot of opportunity. And, if people can do their version of parkour and, I don't know, maybe fund their life or their college with it, which would be so awesome. I find it hard to say that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think what people are worried about is the judging criteria and how the sport is going to be perceived to outsiders and how that might change the sport going forward. I get that.
Right.
Which is why I think it's important to have our own systems in place and represent the things. I'm like, as with any other sport, there will always be subdivisions that keep up the values or the things that you like and appreciate. So I'm not sure that the answer is boycotting Fig, which in the long run is probably not going to work because there's so many muggles out there that watch Fig and Olympics and stuff.
Right.
And they don't know anything about parkour.
Yeah.
But rather trying to keep up the thing that we're doing. Because I honestly feel like, I don't want to say, I gave up, but like it's an overwhelming power to parkour at the moment. I know people are working on it and they're like, oh, we need to establish ourselves more and then we can kind of fight Fig. I don't know about that. I remember there was a speed competition in Germany in 2008. People didn't like it, but that brand had the money and they just did it. There was people competing and they made a little money out of it. And then they got hate. And then eventually, I don't know, they that competition doesn't exist anymore. Apparently it wasn't interesting, or I don't know. Nothing changed. Right, from my perspective, parkour is still a sport. People still do it. Like, people used to compete there. They're still part of the scene. I don't know. I don't.
Yeah, as long as like one organization like Fig can't claim parkour is all theirs, and other companies and other people can keep doing their parkour, then it's all the same, right?
Even if they did, even if they did, then we'll call it something else. Like,
right.
I'm very practical when it comes to that, but I'm like, just because your label of what I do changes or your understanding of what my sport is doesn't mean I need to change the thing that I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, are they the police? Like, are they going to come to my home and like watch my parkour practice and tell me, oh no, you can't do it anymore? Because if they do, well then fuck them. But I don't see that happening.
I was just imagining someone knocking on your door right now. Are you on a parkour podcast?
You can't call it that anymore.
That's
copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cease and desist from Fig.
Yeah. Could you imagine? It's our third one this week.
But yeah, it's all good. Parkour won't stop being parkour. It'll just keep changing.
Yeah, evolving, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it has been changing a lot. Anyways,
like crazy.
People telling us flips are in parkour.
Yeah.
Shout out to people who still remember that one.
Oh yeah.
Watched the parkour video in 2021. Don't know. Like, they were like, Red Bull is bad. Now Red Bull is the most prestigious event. Don't know. Everybody wants to be sponsored by Red Bull. They do cool projects.
True.
Yeah, I got it.
I don't know it all. Like people go ahead, and I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know.
I gotta give a shout out to this Sport Parkour League. Like watching NAPC, that's my favorite competition. I think
they did really good
by far. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. I was about to say they're great example of community-driven events from the community for the community that are actually cool for spectators outside of the sport as well. So yeah, that's a huge inspiration for I know people running comps in Germany as well. So shout out.
Nice.
Yeah.
Speaking of training in Germany, is there like a lot of parks near you, parkour parks? Is there a lot in Germany in general?
No.
Oh.
There's not that many. They're coming up, but it's nothing compared to, like, I know Denmark has shitloads and Netherlands. Nothing compared to those countries. They're kind of coming up, but we have a problem. I don't know if that's common in other countries as well, because from the parks I've seen, they were all designed pretty well. And Germany, oftentimes, the city will declare we want the parkour park, and then kind of just build it. And it's I don't know. We don't really know what happens because they always claim, oh, we've spoken to people within the scene. And I don't know how, because I'm like, do they ask them, do you want a park? We go, yes. And then they design a shit park because that's how it feels. What happens? Because oftentimes things will be too small or weird, or I'm like, that. There's no, like, why would you put it there? That's just not really fit for the practice we do.
Right.
Or too small, like bars hanging too low, like bars hanging too low, or the area being like there's no run up and stuff. And I'm like, how? What? Or there will be a tree where you would run up. I'm like, how? Who's designed this?
Like people who built kids parks.
But there's
skate parks in the beginning. Had no idea.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. So there are parks, but there's only a handful of them that are actually good.
Huh.
Well, that's a start. We got nothing here, so
we got nothing. Hopefully, I'll change one day.
Really? I thought US was pretty all right.
I don't know about the US. In Canada, though, there's, I want to say maybe 2 parks, and that might be in BC.
Probably both in the west coast of Canada.
Yeah, like around Vancouver, where NAPC is hosted.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the country,
right?
And there's nothing here. Like there's winter part-time, so it's a really limited training window. But who knows? You never know. Like everyone I talk to loves the idea of parkour, or the way I sell it to them. But I would love to have 2 parks.
I mean, I feel, to be honest, I feel they're going to pop up eventually because there's skate parks in every town and city. Why can't there be parkour parks? And I know people don't like it when you compare the two and don't know the different sports, but I remember skating in the early 2000s used to be everywhere in video games and music videos and film and stuff like that. Parkour is the same these days. Like, they're doing pretty much the same thing in different eras. So I'm like, well, if all the kids wanted to be skaters and like skates had their own reality shows and sponsors and stuff like that, why can't we have it?
Right.
And I haven't figured out why we couldn't. Like, it takes time, yeah, but I'm like,
whatever.
We're on our way, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon.
Well, just like skate parks, you put a skate park up in any kind of neighborhood, kids will buy skateboards and skate. There's no one there to teach them how. They have no idea, but they're out there and they're giving it a go. Same thing with a parkour park. Maybe eventually, kids will just maybe now with the phone in every kid's hands, maybe you can just Google and YouTube right then and there and learn something new on the new park, or even a QR code on one of the bars or something like that. This is how you a cat back or something like that.
There's cool concepts.
Actually, I gotta write that down.
There's cool concepts for all that stuff. I know it's a couple of people have done that. I feel that's a cool concept as well. I feel that's not really needed because as with skating, because it's something that's very common in skating, somebody does the world's first trick. That still happens, by the way, after 40 years of skateboarding. For everybody who's worried about progression of parkour, don't really see how what. But if people do it, like several other people around the world will follow, and they just see the video, and it's not because they see how they do it, like they see that they do it, and they're like, oh, that's possible. And I feel with the internet, well, being well established these days, and people having access to it from their phone wherever they go, I'm not worried about the progression of the sport and kids teaching themselves and come up with crazy things in the future. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah. I know every year that goes by, it's wilder, and I can't wait to see how where this keeps going to.
Everyone I follow, that's a set amount, but wow, just the stuff that people have come up with in tight spaces, in big long spaces, or just flat ground. It's just awesome. Like in 5 years, 2 years, what is it going to be? I don't know. It's going to be amazing. Way better than it is now.
Yeah, it's a funny sport, eh? Or activity. What do you call this, Robin? You call it a sport?
Yeah. Is parkour a sport?
What I call parkour, like, do I call it? Is it
a martial art?
God,
an art?
Lewis
A
and
discipline?
Shoes asked me the same question. Yeah. I call it. Trying to think. It depends on who I address. If I talk to muggles, I'll call it a sport because they get the idea. And if you look at what it does to your body, it's more of on the sport side of things. But I see it more as a discipline because, at least for me, like it's taught me a lot about myself and about putting in work and training. And it used to be very physical back then. I remember we crawl around and do like conditioning quite a lot, which, looking at it now and from a sports scientific perspective, was a big waste of time.
Yeah,
but we did it, and it was great because it made us like
at the time,
gave us discipline, and so I go like call it a discipline, but there again, parkour is what you make it, and is down to each and every one. So I don't think I had this discussion with Lewis on my Instagram live actually, where we're like, do we need a definition? And I go, I'm not sure. And he went, no, we need to have something that we can. If we don't know what our brand is inside, how can we ever market it to the outside world? And I thought that was powerful. So I'm still like, I don't want to be the person that defines the sport and then puts it out there. So I'm always very careful with telling people parkour is this one thing. I can talk a lot about what I do, what has been done. I know lots about everything that's been going on, but putting a definition on it, don't know.
Yeah,
it's no one like there would always be divisions, like different sects of parkour, right? Like everyone would fall into like a few different camps of what it is. There'd be no way to get a consensus on it.
Yeah, I call it playing. It's not really a sport. It's just like and a recreation. And my recreation is discipline through parkour. Well, I gotta remember that one too.
Write that down.
That's a good one.
Cool. Well, Well, do you got anything left here, Christy? You got other questions?
I actually had more to talk about than I thought. So I'm all tapped out of questions.
It's like, cool. Well,
do you have any?
How about we do some a few quick top fives? I think we haven't done that on a couple episodes, but
Go
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay, so the one we usually start with just your top 5 athletes that you just like to watch. I know it's impossible for most people, but
All right, I couldn't put them in specific order, and I haven't prepared for this one, so I'm just going to name a few that athletes and people that I really like within the scene. I have to say Jason Paul, just because, he's been so big here in Germany, and he's been the role model kind of. I mean, he's been second Red Bull sponsored athlete, and he just kind of showed what's possible. And I felt, especially here in Germany, we could feel like, oh, it's the thing. Like, there's this community, we've been around the people and see them get jobs and make a living off it and traveling and all that. So he's been very important. I still enjoy watching him, and he's still got a great style. He's stayed relevant for years and years and years, and other people have fell off. So Jason is definitely on there. For newer generations, I love what Keelan's doing. I love his creative style. I love what Joseph Marks is doing. Those two I really like. I feel they're innovators in their own sense. I love watching Matt McCreary lately. Very Europe heavy here.
That's how it is, though.
I love Callum Callum for the raw power, and I have to give an honorable mention to Max Henry as well, because he feels like an American Callum Powell to me. People are gonna hate me.
No, totally.
They're both like incredibly strong, purist athletes, and they both really know their shit. And I think they're both great. That's been 5 already, right?
So I think it has. No, you just shouted them right out. It's great.
Yeah, really, really great people to watch.
We'll go on to our second top 5, which is training places where you like training and or where you want to train or where you've been training. Just any of your favorite spots.
I love that Prague spot that I can't pronounce. That's at the railway station that they're tearing down Lag thingy.
Sure.
That iconic one.
Okay. Not too sure if
we went there 2 years ago, right before COVID. And love that. Red City, Munich, or Munich in general, worth a trip. For sure, some of the best spots. I was training in Australia, actually, when I was down there. Special honorable mention for Point 8 that has closed. Unfortunately, they got through COVID and everything, and then the landlord threw them out anyway.
Dang.
But that's just been my favorite place to come in and hang out. Like, that's not an outside spot. That was the case in Adelaide. I love Melbourne community.
Cool. So, when were you there?
Shout out for that. 2018 to 19, probably.
Oh, really? Okay.
18 to 19.
Wow.
Yeah. Probably have to say London, even though I have to confess I haven't been yet.
Good.
Never made it. It's so close, and I have never made it.
You will.
I really want to go Paris because those are iconic spots I didn't get to see yet, which is weird, but it's the truth.
Yeah, you will, I'm sure. With your enthusiasm, I'm sure you'll see those places.
Yeah.
I really want to look at manpower and know if I can do it. I'd really like to do it, but I'm like, I'm only getting older.
Yeah. That's for sure. That was the big one when I started too around years and years ago. I would like to go there. I know I probably would not do it, but I would really like to see that in person too.
Keep on doing those powerlifting.
I know people who stood up there and they, like some of my friends told me they've been up there and they were like, "Oh, I'm sure you could do it." And I'm like, "You're sure? Like what?"
For sure.
So I like to have a look at least.
Yeah.
That's funny. Tom, you want to do the last one?
For the finale.
The sage advice.
Oh, this will be really good. It's coming from someone who gives a lot of advice and posts and everything. If you're one piece of advice to give someone getting into parkour, what would it be?
Just one piece of advice, somebody getting into parkour.
Well, I guess we could even do it if you have something that comes to mind for people who've been maybe doing parkour for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I want this to be very meaningful. So I actually need to think quite a bit. I'm like, it would be cool. It would be cool to set something like really, really meaningful, really thought out. I'm like what I actually think is just enjoy what you're doing, like and keep up the spirit that you had when you got into it, because it's a weird sport and it's a weird thing to do. Like jumping on walls and rails is a weird passion to have, and it looks ridiculous from the outside. But if you're weird enough to get into it, enjoy it, because it's fucking sick and will get you places you'd never imagined. And I feel it will do things for you that other sports, other disciplines, or other things probably couldn't do in that way. So if you're weird enough to do parkour, welcome and enjoy your ride. It's fucking
sick. You're after my heart, aren't you? I can tell, because that's the way I speak around people. Good for you. I love that. I love that a lot.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't sound too cringe when you play it back and you're like,
not at all.
No.
I want to be philosophical piece of advice.
No, you know what? You should change your name to like Robin the Parkour Philosopher.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
This message, he called me a parkour messiah, and I went,
no.
And I went, I'm not, what? And he went, I need your advice. You're the parkour messiah. And I went, I don't, what?
That's nice. What a compliment. And like, you're so humble just to brush it off. Like, no. That's why we have people like you.
No, I don't want big fancy. I don't want big fancy titles. I don't want people to look up at me and go like, oh, he knows it. Because I remember there was somebody telling me like, oh, you should change your name to The Parkour Coach on Instagram. Apparently that handle's still free. Go get it if you want, because I'm never going to claim to be the Parkour Coach.
The Parkour Coach.
Just a coach.
That's what I'll title this episode. Just the Parkour Messiah. No name.
Yeah, I'll get that one though.
Yeah. You know what's funny? You sound like part of our community, everyone's community, parkour community. When you say like, you know, I don't want that, blah, blah, blah. Everyone we talk to doesn't have this ego. Like they're just like, no, I don't want that. I just want to help. I just want to blah, blah, blah. And it's just so nice because everyone's like, no, I'm not giving you away my secret. No, like I had to work 5 years to learn that. Now you have to work 5 years to learn that. No, that's not like our community at all. And that's what I love about it. So I'm glad it's reaching like from you to us and us to you. It's all the same. It's great.
Yeah, I have to say, there's one thing I have to say about this. I remember there were people that are like, oh, you need to figure this out on your own. Like you need to go through the experiences. I said that earlier as well. I'm like, you need to kind of make your own experience. I stand by what I said. But I also feel if people need the same amount of time to learn something as you did, you're a bad coach.
Yeah.
Like, you're completely useless. If you can't facilitate somebody else's process, you should quit. And if you do that, I think it's very arrogant as well, because again, apparently you're not in it for the sport and the progression of the sport. It's my perspective on it, but apparently like you're keeping it. Like, why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you help somebody else?
Exactly.
Why? Like,
Yeah.
they can then get their discipline and their own problem and work it with you and still like get something out of that. But there's no need to keep your secret.
Yeah. Should always be the goal, right? The student has to become the master at some point, right? You got to make them better than you
or
were.
get them to your level at least.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that feeling when you can teach a student which and they get it in that session. And it's like you get this self-gratifying thing. It's like, yes! Like now that kid's going to throw that down in a line. You know what I mean? It's going to look so sick next time I see them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Really cool. Yeah. Well, I guess on that note, I guess we'll give you the rest of your evening. Robin, thanks again for coming on the program. We really appreciate you. We played
my
this
pleasure.
awesome, we played this awesome tag for a while, and no, it's fine because I realize it's summer, and I'm guilty of it too. Like I am not on my device as much as I think I am in summer, kind of thing. So, thank you for being patient and coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
If people want to follow you, if they're not already, what's the best place for them to find your stuff?
On Instagram, my handle is Robin the Coach, and slide into those DMs if there's anything you need to say or ask. I could imagine I've said some things people want to follow up on. It happens. I don't know. Maybe you'll find a thing or two you find interesting. I'd love that. And if you don't, just enjoy your day.
Wicked. All right, I'll include a link to Robin's Instagram in the show notes. I guess they'll be below. Anyone listening can check that out. I guess so. That's it. That's it for today. We'll say bye.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the CubeCast. Thanks, Robin.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.